We have been helping people grow online. It has been absolutely amazing. We have helped many content creators get from zero to monetization in under 30 days. We even have a couple of these superstars who did it in 1 or 2 weeks. If you want to learn how to do YouTube, I don't care your age, I don't care what skills or talents you have. Trust me, I can help you do it effortlessly. Just reach out to me with the word coach and we can get it done. One more thing. We have a YouTube course that I just now created. I'm extremely proud of, and a lot of people are getting so much from. Purchase that course and work with us. You can join our private Facebook group and our daily group calls, which is 3 to 5 days per week, and you can learn so much more than you've ever learned before. I can't wait to hear from you. Love you. Peace.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to LFR's in the morning Vantage with usually Van, but Mika and Dave. What's going on?
What up, Mika? What up, people? Listen, we getting it popping early. It is Friday, and the situations in the streets are hot.
Indeed. How are you this morning?
I am absolutely blessed and highly favored and ready to make some people upset. I'm feeling good. How about yourself?
Oh, well, I don't mind making people upset. It's early, but, we can do it.
Yeah. Listen, if you're liberal and illiterate, this ain't the show for you.
You know what? I concur.
Man.
How is everybody in the chat? What's going on? Yes, Van is okay. Van is chilling.
Yes, he is with his family. I told y'all this yesterday, and I also promised you Mika, because yesterday they were like, well, damn, where's Mika? First of all, I moisturized for this show, okay? I moisturized for this show. I thought I was very pretty yesterday. My wife thought I looked good. So, but I get it. I understand.
I gagged when I saw that. He was like, well, I'm not Mika. I was like, sir, you're hilarious.
No, because you had to see him in the comments. That's not Mika. Somebody was like, is this Van's brother? I'm like, oh, because I got good skin and locks. I got to be related to Van. Like we all related. We all look alike. That's why they call conservatives racist. That right there.
That is racist. You guys, it is early. Early. Okay. And when I tell you
there's coffee in here.
It's early. What's going on? Where's everybody from? I know some of the people in here. Look, Shane, Scoop.
Yeah.
I already know you guys. Katrina. Yeah. Van's okay. He's just doing, family stuff.
Yeah, he's having a good time with the family.
But tell us in the chat where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Arkansas. Okay, do you say Arkansas or do you say Arkansas?
It's Arkansas.
I hear some.
You've actually heard people say Arkansas?
Yes, I hear people say Arkansas. Colorado Springs, Texas, America.
America.
Y'all are funny.
What is wrong with y'all? This is what we doing today. Scoop is wild. Scoop said, America. Yeah. Scotland's in the house.
Athens, South Carolina.
Aiken.
What is this? Oh, Aiken. Okay.
Yeah. That is the Adirondack Mountains in New York, upstate New York.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
I've lived in 19 states and 34 cities. So that's what happens when you do radio all over the country. You get to learn.
I didn't know you did radio.
Yeah. From 1987 to 2012.
Wow.
Yeah. Your boy looks good. No, I started when I was 9. Seriously, started when I was 9. Retired when I was 34. I know your brain just broke. She's like, but how does
it's too early.
I'll explain it to you later. It's cool. We got a show to do.
All right, you guys. I want to waiting to get people in, but we're gonna go ahead and start. So you guys, we got a good lineup for you today. Mm-hmm. Again, Van is on vacation. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, okay. He's fine.
All right, he's somewhere where the smoke detector does not beep. Okay.
That was racist.
Yeah, it is this.
Actual, but racist.
The smoke detector does not beep there. All right. He is safe and sound. All right. And we're going to get it done. Let's go ahead and jump into what we're going to talk about today, you guys. All right. So first off, we're going to talk about something that's been going on for the longest. And I do mean the longest. Okay. Karine Jean-Pierre, we all know, is the press secretary. Yes, she's the press secretary. The press secretary, we know, is a liar. We know this, okay?
Yes.
So she is a liar. However, she has been doing cover, and she decided to come out and do her book and say this and that and the third about what she knows, just like Jake Tapper. The problem is now the Democratic Party, everybody is turning against her. And one of the people that is turning against her is Stephen A. Smith. Okay. Now, Stephen A. Smith is a self-proclaimed independent. I think he's a liberal, but he's a self-proclaimed independent.
You think he's a liberal?
I think he's a liberal. I think he's getting better. I think his TDS is not as high. Okay. If we had a TDS meter, it would be.
He's probably at like a 3, maybe.
In the middle. He's a little in the middle. However, Stephen A. decided to go ahead and slam Miss Jean-Pierre because Jean-Pierre wanted to act like she never knew any of this. Okay. I want you guys to see this. Here we go.
You were not the White House press secretary when you showed up on ABC's The View a couple of months ago. You were talking major stuff then. You were not the White House press secretary. You were an American citizen who was not working in the White House. What the hell you going on the show for then? Bloviating about Joe Biden and how he was alert and he was spry and he was a great commander-in-chief and he was sharp and all of this stuff. I don't have it clipped in front of me because I just saw the story. You're lucky I don't have time to pull it up. But I'm fully aware of the fact that you were not the White House press secretary when you were on The View spewing the same stuff you had spewed when you were the White House press secretary.
All right. So to give you guys a little bit of context with that, all right, he is talking about Karine Jean-Pierre going on The View. Now, if you don't know, Karine Jean-Pierre does not have a job. She's unemployed at this point.
Good.
Okay. And most of those press secretaries, they want to go over there and actually have some type of career afterwards, like Psaki.
Yeah, Big Jen.
All those type of people. Even Sean Spicer, all those type of people, they get to go and, do something else.
Right.
Kaylee McEnany, that's her last name.
I think that's right.
Yeah, they get to go and they go to these cable networks, they get these contracts and they talk because they have insider information, right? Nobody wants Jean-Pierre.
No.
And she wanted to be a co-host on The View. That's what they're saying in the streets. That's what Don Limon says. Okay,
so first of all, there's so much to unpack here. Listen, I have never seen somebody who, and again, this woman set records. She is the first Black LGBTQI35 carry the 1 percentage point person to be at the press secretary dais. I'm not taking that from her, but The View is already jacked up enough. We don't need your tap dancing, stepping at you, Yowza boss himself on there yelling and screaming with Whoopi because it was hard enough for you to conjugate a verb when you was dealing with Sleepy Joe. And the other part of that is okay, Mika, if we're gonna do this show correctly, and shout out to Van for the $20 super chat. I don't know why he's paying himself, but okay. You gotta warn me that Stephen A. Smith had Bernie Sanders in his throat. I got headphones on, my dear. Okay, I'm an old man. I wasn't ready. It's like, but no, there's no way that this was gonna fly. She talking about she independent. That book, she is nothing but DEI Jake Tapper. That's all she is. She knew good and hell well. Remember, she was like, oh, he's sharper than he's ever been. The only person who tap danced more for Joe Biden's alleged cognitive abilities was Kamala. Oh, he's sharp. He's running around.
Would you do anything differently?
No, I can't think of a thing I would do differently. Yeah, because you can't think of a thing.
She can't think at all.
I said this yesterday.
I said this yesterday. Jean-Pierre, the only thing she does is.
We have been informed that the sound it out, Karine. Sound it out, boo-boo cakes.
Oh, let's get back into it. Here we go.
So all bets are off. You didn't have to do that, but you chose to. Live with your decisions. Live with your decisions. You didn't have to do that, but that's what you chose to do. You chose to go front and center and still spew the same party line. So what the book's going to tell us? The book's going to tell us more about the Democrats. The book is the book going to be an extension of Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's book, Original Sin. Yet another Democrat coming out and telling us about stuff that a whole bunch of stuff on the right was telling us, but y'all swore we shouldn't listen to while y'all were engaging in cancel culture, while y'all were engaging in excoriating anybody that called the Democratic Party out for what the hell was going on. That's what we supposed to do now? That's what we supposed to do. We're supposed to listen to you now. Okay. I'll do that. Karine Jean-Pierre, you are more than welcome to come on the Stephen A. Smith Show and explain your book and what it's going to say. But not only why we didn't hear from you while you were the White House press secretary, which is very understandable, but how come we didn't hear that from you afterwards? Why were we hearing the same stuff after you left the White House that you were saying while you were in the White House?
Well,
that's because
talk to him.
It was hola.
It was a lie. It was a lie. Now again,
you don't have to lie, Craig.
You ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't
Yeah,
got to lie.
we all know. We all know that everybody in that White House understood exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Listen,
everybody knew it. The media covered for it. Like there was nothing there that you couldn't tell that he had his mental, let me use my Jasmine Crockett voice. His mental acuity was gone.
It's gone. Been gone. That ain't good old Uncle Joe from 08. He gone. He is super out of here. But the other part of that is we have to remember that they wanted, above all else, to make people believe that Joe was in control while they were doing all the stuff behind the scenes. And I don't know if people understand that that's tantamount to treason, right? I want y'all to start looking at the fact, allegedly, that oh gosh, her name Pocahontas. Why can't I call her name right? Elizabeth Warren was running that auto pen, allegedly, supposedly. Everybody who knew and conspired, because make no mistake, it was a conspiracy. So Karine Jean-Pierre, the former vice president, the Secretary of State, the White House chief of staff, all of the aides, the Democratic National Committee, all of them need to be dragged into a tribunal in chains for the fact that they pulled the wool over the eyes of the American people, because you don't have a right to privacy when you are the leader of the free world. Your health report is supposed to be a matter of public record. And we knew something was up when he wasn't releasing those things. And everybody was talking about, oh, he's fine, he's this, he's that. And as a person that spent 75% of his life in mainstream media, I can tell you, when you saw that promo that Joe Biden cut like a cognitive declined WWE wrestler, and they had all those jump cuts. Come on, Donald, we're going to make sure we have a debate. I was like, am I watching Joe Biden or Captain Kirk? Because they chopped and edited so much. Man, this is a mess. But Stephen A. Smith and J.D. Vance, that's a ticket that's going to win in 2028. You heard it here first. Sorry.
No, you cooking. I'm letting you cook. Go ahead.
No. So listen, again, y'all saw I had to pull my earphones out. I heard everything Stephen A. Smith was saying. Y'all keep acting like these people are somehow above board. You keep acting like these people are not getting paid off for this. And what I think is really interesting, if Joseph Robinette Biden of Delaware did not sign all of those executive orders, if he did not sign all of those pardons, then they automatically need to be thrown out. They automatically need to, at bare minimum, since we want to have so many studies about things like reparations and the environment and food deserts, let's have a study to examine how these auto pen documents allegedly, because it was clear he couldn't even tell the difference between where the cameras were facing and looking off in the trees and the grass. Like the dude literally was nuttier than squirrel crap. At some point, the people who were in their good mental faculties need to be brought to account as to what they did, why they did it, how long they knew that the president was not in a position to serve the American people, and the his medical team also needs to be dragged, through court, because it's disgusting what they're doing. So yeah, Karine Jean-Pierre trying to cash out doesn't surprise me, but nobody wanted her extra average behind on The View. There's already enough mediocrity on that Disney show to go around.
And there you have it. I couldn't have said it better. You guys like, comment, subscribe, hit the like for the algorithm,
Please.
All that good stuff, because YouTube does not, for some reason, send out notifications.
Yeah,
and it's crazy because they don't do it for big channels. They don't do it for little channels. I'm starting to, when do they do it?
Oh, if all of a sudden we just treated ourselves like the Grinch and our tree-hugging liberal hearts grew 3 times, all of a sudden we be everywhere. How we got 1.1 million subscribers on this channel and nobody got a notification? Where's Dr. Umar? You don't find that suspicious?
I beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon.
You guys, let's move into the next point. But no, you were cooking. So
I'm your sous chef. I'm just here to serve.
Let them cook. All right. So I want to move in to, I was going to go with the headlining, but let's go into this. Let's go into Linda McMahon. Okay. And the reason why I want to go into Linda McMahon is because Linda McMahon was on the Hill yesterday. All right. And if you guys don't know, Linda McMahon not only is, a friend of Donald Trump, Linda McMahon is a head of the Department of Education. And of course, we all know what's been going on with the Department of Education, what's been going on with the Dems in the Department of Education, Doge, and everything that's just been happening with that department and dismantling it. Okay. Well, they decided to bring her onto the Hill. However, what they were talking about yesterday at Congress is just nonsense. You guys have to see it to believe it. Here we go.
Our schools is a DEI program. There's no card for that. That's just yes or no.
I can look at
2 really quick questions. Do you think that Holocaust education in our schools is a DEI program? There's no card for that. That's just yes or no.
I can look at whatever card.
Holocaust education, is it a DEI? You can have a press conference to say whatever you want. I just need a quick answer to this.
Your soliloquy
is Holocaust, because this is my time, is Holocaust education a DEI program?
No.
Is African American Studies a DEI program?
I think I answered that with one.
I'm asking it again.
Listen, we should be
just yes or no.
We should be able to teach
courses. My point is they are DEI programs, both of them, because students need diversity, equity, and inclusion to understand their environments. So both Holocaust education and the teaching of African American history are important, which is why the state of Connecticut requires it in our social studies curriculum. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't support one without supporting the other. And looking at what happens in the schools and actually deferring to teachers, parents who are on curriculum committees, local boards of education in states who actually do the hard work, and listening to what they say would be incredibly helpful in this role.
It's time to move on.
I got my thoughts, but Dave?
Okay, so first of all, I need you to understand 2 things. Number one, I am tired of the platforming of loud, sassy sisters who come across like slack-jawed North American big backs yelling and screaming on global television as if that's how Black women behave. My wife does not behave like that. My daughters do not behave like that. Mika does not behave like that. The majority of Black women I've run into in my 5 decades of living do not act like that. You can disagree without being disrespectful or disagreeable. Scott Jennings does a beautiful job of it every single day on CNN, and he ain't got no friends on that dais. This was absolutely despicable. That's point number one. Point number two, I am Black. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have been Black since 1977. I don't plan on transitioning in anything else. I identify as Black. I will always be Black. And because I have a family that was involved in my education process, I don't need the government teaching me about who I am culturally. Because let's face it, the government has done a bang up job of failing in that department. I also have never been taught about Jewish American heroes. I have not been taught about Puerto Rican heroes. I have not been taught about Japanese American heroes. And I don't need to. When you allow the government to educate your children and let them be the number one voice in your culture, then what you're doing is setting people up to whitewash and completely obliterate who you actually are. The other problem is, and this is not a Linda McMahon problem, this is a problem going all the way back to Jimmy Carter in the late 70s. The US Department of Education has a $90 billion per annum budget, but we're 27th in reading comprehension and 34th in mathematical computation skills on the world stage. And so DEI is not the problem. Also, Black people, and I know you're not going to like this, but every one of these programs, affirmative action, DEI, welfare, primarily have benefited what became out of nowhere the number one minority in this country, and that is white women. So Black people who claim to be pro-Black but are caping and going out and marching and singing "We Shall Overcome" and ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, talking about we need DEI and I'm gonna need you to answer it with the yes or no question. It's the yes or no question. Bobo, how are you fighting for 4%? The only time in American history it made sense to fight for 4% is when the Revolutionary War happened and Washington and them was fighting over a 4% tax without representation. This is insanity and a waste of taxpayer dollars. We need to start making sure that we have the opportunity to educate our children properly, and you fighting for DEI as if it's something, but you're leaving out the fact that they have books that are trying to educate people who have school-age children, our kids, about things that I'm not ready to have a conversation with my 10-year-old Black daughter about. About sexuality and identity and touching and experimentation in a way that is not healthy or natural or normal. You know, you had to get a permission slip to have the health class teacher talk to you about
and that's the crazy part about that. That's the crazy part about that, right? Because I remember, and this is the 2000s, okay? Mm-hmm. I remember we had sex ed, right? Mm-hmm. You could opt out of that class because there were some who were in certain religious sects. I'm here in Maryland, right? So mm-hmm. you have different types of children, right? And with that being said, you could opt out of it, but if you didn't, you know, that's where you learn things, but that was 8th grade and above.
Right.
Okay. Where you can kind of, you know, conceptualize these things.
Right.
The problem with the Democratic Party is they're not looking at it from an educational standpoint, because there is a point where you should talk about that. And a lot of the peers that you might interact with in that way, you know, because kids are doing what they do, are going to be your peers from high school and things like that, right? The problem is the Democrats do not want to wait until then, right? Mm-hmm. Where they can have a discussion, everybody's involved, the school, the kid, and the parent. No, they want to catch your kid when they're pre-K in their kindergarten, because everybody knows from 0 to 7 is what? The learning
years. Yep.
Yep. And once you program them there, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
And they're not gonna stray from that. Mm-hmm. And they understand that it's all psychology. The same with the kids and the trans thing. It's all psychology. And yes, Jared, I agree with you. It's perversion because I told people, that whole trans thing is an in for pedos. That's just my personal opinion, because when you tell kids they can make a decision about their sex, then what else can they make a decision about? How far does that go?
Yeah, see, but it starts and stops there, because that's the thing. You're telling a child who hasn't fully developed yet that they can chop off their body parts, but you won't let them go buy a pack of cigarettes. You won't let them get some. You won't let them get some alcohol. You won't let them go off and fight in a war. But you're okay with it's up to them, and they know their bodies, and that's a decision that should be made with them and their parents. Hold on. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with like Roman and Greek mythology. Like I wanted to go one-on-one with Zeus. That's how little kids think.
Right. And if you tell them and push them certain directions, they will look at it. And here's the thing. I tell people all the time, I was a tomboy. I'm probably still what's called a tomboy, right? Because I will wear a skirt and go outside on a dirt bike. Like I like being outside, right? I like hiking, things like that.
Right.
And so typically it's not very feminine, right? But if I lived in today's world, they would be like, oh, well, maybe she wants to be a boy. Maybe she wants to be trans because she likes trucks and Barbies. Maybe she's non-binary. And no, I just like fun stuff.
Yeah, like and fun.
I'm a kid, right?
Yeah,
I just like fun stuff.
Yeah.
The trucks make nice noises and they go vroom, and the Barbies, they're so pretty and cute, and you can do their hair.
Right.
It's just the Democrats, they twist everything. But that was Linda McMahon. All right. Now, we all know what's done during the day will get talked about later in the evening with Scott Jennings and the unfortunate Abby. Okay. It's so unfortunate that a woman that's so nice looking is so Trump deranged. The bald-headed reasoning just jumps out every day, all day.
Bald-headed reasoning.
Okay. Bald-headed reasoning.
That mug has to be available right now. I need that mug.
Yes, it is.
I'm buying it. Take my money.
But I'm telling you, it jumps out because it's just empty. There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. These talking points are just ridiculous. So I want to get into the spat that Abby Phillips and Scott Jennings had about Linda McMahon being confronted about Holocaust deniers and everything that's happening at Harvard, which is what we just saw. Here we go.
Anti-Semitism right now from Democrats.
Why on earth would she not be able to answer that question?
She has the same answer that every Republican has had for time immemorial. Why isn't there any diversity of viewpoint in the faculty at a college?
So what is the answer?
It was a joke of a question.
Okay.
It was a joke of a question.
So what's the answer? What's the answer?
The answer
is it an ideological litmus test to have a Holocaust denier be asked to ask?
That's not an ideological litmus test that you have to believe in progressive radicalism to get hired now, because that's what it seems like to us.
Holocaust denialism.
That's the box they have to check.
Which is card-carrying, textbook anti-Semitism. You think
she wasn't responding to
count?
That. She wasn't responding to that, and it's a patently ridiculous assertion.
Why are you assuming that she wasn't responding to that when she gave answer?
Because I'm a thinking human being who can see what a rational person would say to a ridiculous question.
She didn't say that's a ridiculous question.
You were totally misconstruing this.
Scott, literally, we played it for the American people to see.
Yeah, and every single person's going to see it my way.
She literally did not answer. She did not answer the question the way you want to answer the question, and that question has an answer. What is the answer?
The answer to that question is you're an idiot. To that congressman. That is the answer to that question.
What is the answer? Will the federal government, if somebody comes in and says, I don't believe the Holocaust really happened, will the federal government bring the hammer down on universities for saying that is not a viewpoint that we are allowing on our campuses?
The question would be
that the answer ought to be no, but it sounds like neither of you want to give an answer.
No, the answer ought to be what kind of litmus test is Harvard putting on its faculty now?
Yes.
Only 3% of its faculty are Republicans.
I mean, she didn't have a no card in front of her to tell her the answer, and this is what happens when you have somebody who lied about having an education degree. They didn't teach about the Holocaust maybe when she was getting her French degree.
If
she actually had that.
Look, we also didn't even.
You're accusing her of being a Holocaust denier?
Hold on a second.
This is outrageous.
Excuse me,
I'm
Scott.
not saying that.
Stop. Everybody stop. Everybody stop for a second. Excuse me, Scott. Nobody accused her of being a Holocaust denier.
You're implying
Scott,
that that's what she wants.
No one did
You're
that.
implying.
It is completely.
The line of inquiry here
just
is an
stop for just a
implication that
second.
she's like, sure,
it is
let's do that.
completely disingenuous for you to sit at this table and say that we accused her of being a Holocaust
I think it's disingenuous
denier.
to portray this interaction the way you are.
Absolutely,
That's my view.
no one said that. It is
How are you portraying
disingenuous.
it? How are you portraying
It's
it?
disingenuous. It's disrespectful.
I think
wrong.
the question was disingenuous.
Excuse me.
It was a disingenuous question.
How is it a disingenuous question? The other part of the question is, if you are an election denier, and Harvard said you can't be an election denier and teach at this school, is that a litmus test?
The question is, what litmus test is Harvard putting on its faculty?
Okay,
We
listen,
know they have one
we gotta
set of
go,
ideology.
but it is very clear that neither of you want to answer a very simple question.
So now you're
Are
accusing
you
us.
allowed?
Are you accusing us?
Is Harvard?
Are you accusing him and me?
Is Harvard allowed, or any
ahead and do
school,
it.
is any school allowed to say that these are facts, and if you don't believe in facts, you cannot teach here? Are they allowed to do that?
The question is, what is the litmus test
Scott,
today?
don't
and what kind
do
of
not
faculty do you
answer
want?
my
Do you want
question.
people who all have the same
Do
views
not,
or a
when you
diversity
answer
of
my
views?
question with a question, you are dodging.
When
So
you
answer
ask me
the
when you ask
question.
me questions that I think are kind of ridiculous framing of this issue, then I think
How
you're
is it a
misconstruing the
ridiculous
issue.
framing?
Because
You either believe that there are things that are facts or you don't.
I do believe in facts, and I also
Okay.
believe that that member of Congress was creating a disingenuous, ridiculous question designed for this gotcha moment right here.
Okay, it is very telling that you are not able or willing to even entertain an answer. You could
I
answer the
gave you
question
an
right
answer.
now and you
has a
refuse
right-
to do it.
Wait a minute.
Look,
No, Harvard has a right to have any
Okay.
litmus test they want for their faculty. They're a private institution.
Okay,
They can-
all right. Well, there's the answer to your question. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. Coming up next, Karine Jean-Pierre was the voice of the Biden administration.
The audacity of this woman. Let's talk about it. Abby, I normally give her grace. I normally do. I normally give her grace. Because she's not really a debater. Okay. But here's the thing. This woman constantly does exactly what she tells others not to do, especially Scott. Okay, well, don't answer my question with a question. You do it all the time. Well, you're dodging the question. It's not a yes or no. Like, Democrats always want a yes or no, but they never give a yes or no. Well, they can do all of that, but conservatives can never do it. On top of that, we all know Abby's show is a pile-on. Okay, it's usually Sir Michael or Scott or maybe O'Leary, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is usually Trump deranged, including the host. Okay, and she never lets anybody talk. You say, here's the question. You go, well, no. Scott. It's like, I didn't get a chance to answer the question. No. I literally didn't get a chance to answer the question. And I think another tactic that she does is when you start to make sense, she interjects. Mm-hmm. Like she throws something there. So now you have to argue that point and you kind of forget about the point that you were making, right? She's very good at gaslighting. Okay. She's very good at this. But the problem is not only is she Trump deranged, she gets triggered so much, right? To the fact that the other people on the panel, when they are even speaking, if they're speaking to Scott or Sir Michael, she gets triggered and then she'll cut them off to speak and say what she wants to say. Abby annoys me, and I'm telling you, pisses me off to the highest level of passivity because I'm telling you, the way this woman goes about actually carrying on a conversation, trying to debate is ridiculous. And when I say ridiculous, I mean to the point that you can't even make a argument with a good basis or in good faith, because Abby will go ahead and say, well, it's not what I wanted to hear. It's not going to give my viewers the Trump is bad, orange man bad. It's not doing that. So I don't want to share that viewpoint, and I want to steer the conversation somewhere else.
Yeah.
I have more, but I'm gonna let you cook.
Okay. Mika, I appreciate you having a level of decorum when it comes to this woman. First time I saw Abby Phillip, I remember you always said, "Oh, she's a pretty girl," and I was like, "Yeah, no, she's cute." But then she opened her mouth, and every time Abby Phillip opens her mouth, the only reason I even watch her show is because Scott Jennings is on there, or Kevin O'Leary, who, like myself, is an entrepreneur. I enjoy watching him come in with facts. What happens with her is she's there to stop any type of logical reasoning or any type of thing that could possibly encourage independent thought. This is an agenda. Like you said, it is bald-headed reasoning. And my whole thing is, I'm sick of these cosplaying individuals who run around here acting like they care and they do not. The thing about this woman is, it becomes about whatever her bosses tell her it needs to become about. And we know what it needs to become about. CNN, and I never thought I would live to see the day to see this, because I remember being a kid and CNN was just on a couple of outlets. It wasn't the global CNN we now know. CNN has become more liberal than MSNBC. MSNBC looks rational compared to what happens with Abby Phillip's show. And then when Scott brings up a point, he's like, no, what you're doing right now is you're implying, oh, well, we didn't say that. That plausible deniability, passive aggressive, gaslighting, nonsensical BS that she does while she sits there and bats those Jasmine Crockett light eyelashes she's got is absolutely disrespectful. It is disgusting. And we're still not addressing the thing that the American people actually care about. Why are our children being forced to have longer school days, more homework, and they're dumber than they've ever been? They cannot balance a checkbook. They do not understand credit. They do not understand financing. They do not understand reasonable cognitive ability when it comes to passing standardized tests that the U.S. Department of Education has signed off on since 1979. But we got time to talk about Linda McMahon and her tone. And that is exactly why, shameless plug time, I wrote The Real Black Agenda, exposing the myths, igniting the revolution, because this is what's going on. They continue to put these black faces in high places and tell you that's how all of us are thinking. They continue to tell us that it does not matter. They continue to tell us that this is what is supposed to happen, and you're just supposed to take it and say, yes, another. Nah, Abby Phillip and her ilk need to be dragged out in the street. If you just run that whole thing back and put it on mute, it's great. But the second she does this, I'm like, you might as well be Rasputin. Norbit, get dead. Can't stand her.
You know, my Rasputia is Letitia. I call her Letitia Rasputia James.
Oh my God. And I'm telling you, man, I need to write a screenplay and call it Politics 2025, Attack of the Big Backs. Because her whole thing was, we gonna get Trump, and it's gonna make my business to go out there and get Trump. Ha, get dead. That's hilarious.
You want to see?
Hilarious.
You want to see me go down the slide, don't you? Yes, that is.
Not when I have Crystal Light in my mouth. No, we're not doing that today. Please get the book, and
you
thank
have
you
on
for everybody
bottoms. Of course, I got on
who's plugging the book. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. It's available on every platform, but you can definitely get it directly from our website as well. Because, you know, Amazon and Bezos is taking 60% of my profit margin. Can't stand him.
Well, that's got to happen. Let me read the super chats really quick. Even though I put them up on the screen, I still want to read them. Okay. The Righteous Perspective, $10 super chat. Okay. What's going on, Wise? Y'all doing the thing. Love it. Good morning, LFR family. Thank you, Wise. And then the man that pays himself. What's up, man? Don't have too much fun. You two are awesome. We're definitely going to have fun. We're definitely going to rag on people, and we're definitely going to report the real news. And yeah, that's what we do. Thank you, Van. Have fun down there in Florida.
The thing that I like about you, the thing that I like about Van, is you can be good, kind, respectful, attractive people. There is nothing wrong with being attractive, and being attractive is not an indicator of your lack of intelligence. Being attractive is a matter of genetics, conditioning, moisturization, and physical fitness. You don't have to buck dance just because you're cute. You can actually pick up these things. They're made of processed wood and ink. They're called books, and they have knowledge in them. And if you so happen to drag your pupils across them, you gonna learn today. Abby don't do that. Abby just says, "Yes, a boss. I was gonna do it, boss. Whatever Master Scott says, I was gonna run him out."
In that democratic space that isn't really democratic, more like communism, but in that space, you cannot say your true thoughts. And I know because most of my friends, well, I wouldn't say friends, but most of the people that I have to be around because I'm in the Washington, D.C. area are liberal. Okay. And I don't really care. Right. But the thing about it is they don't think outside the box.
Ooh. Oh, Mika,
they don't think. And let's just call it what it is. The 92%. The 92% is the worst of them all. Okay. It's like it's like talking to that child at alternative schools where this is the last stop. You've tried everything and they just won't do right. That is the 92%. And that's who I end up arguing with. All that you said, I've said before, all you get called is a pick me. You don't understand. They don't like when I talk about Michelle Obama. They don't like when I talk about Abby. They don't like when I talk about Ratchet Crockett and Ayo Crazy. They don't like when I talk about any of this.
Crazy. Why are you like this? Listen, I got dragged for calling Jasmine Crockett a thought pocket. So, I mean,
why not? What is she doing?
She's doing the same. No, we're not going to do this. We are not going to do this today, Mika. It is Friday. Van is not here, and we're not.
That's why it's the best day. It's Friday. End it with a bang. Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett.
Things. We're not going to. No, we're not going to share her name. No. First of all, she is doing things. She has her staff out in the hallway with a phone, and they are filming her doing a Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl skit and sticking her tongue out with one eye going this way and the other eye going this way. I don't know who she's looking at, but she ain't looking at the American people with any level of seriousness. Chapter 9, The Ballot and the Binder. It's right here in the Real Black Agenda, available right now where fine books are sold. So, yeah, no, she is doing something. She's wasting American taxpayers' time because has she put forth any legislation that has moved any American?
Oh, don't tell them that. Do not tell them that. When you say, okay, what policies have she put forth? She said out her own mouth, I'm probably not a good politician.
Then why
because
are you there?
I don't have any policies that I would think that Donald Trump would get pushed through. Ma'am, I don't care if Donald Trump would deny them all. What policies do you have? The woman doesn't do anything other than go on MSNBC. And she doesn't even do that right because you have all day to do this. You have no talking points. You have no actual facts. Okay. And on top of that, she goes on like, let's look at this. You were just talking about how Abby is a nice looking woman.
Sure.
Abby is deranged, but at least she puts the effort in. Ratchet Crockett goes on there, spews all this nonsense, and she looks bad. Like it's just a bad thing all the way around.
Yo, have you ever seen 8 Mile?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay, so Anthony Mackie's character, when Eminem ethers him at the end and says, "Listen, your real name is Clarence, and Clarence grew at home with both parents, and Clarence's parents had a real good marriage." This chick went to private school. She is not hood. No, I have lived in Texas. I've lived in Houston, San Antonio, San Angelo, Dallas, Fort Worth. I know real ratchet when I see it. There's a place in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex called Oak Cliff. Oak Cliff is so ratchet, they have a theme song. You know how, like, if you go to Texas and you see some white people, you go, "The stars of night are big and bright, deep in the heart of in Oak Cliff." If you go, Oak Cliff, every black person will stop what they're doing and say, "That's my hood." Put it in their face and get this itch understood. They ratchet. This chick is playing to what she thinks ratchetry is, to what she thinks the lowest common denominator of black people are. And that's what they do. Now, here's the thing that's going to shock you, probably shock Van, probably shock everybody in the comments and cost Van some super chats this morning, but I gotta say it. If there is an opportunity for a Democrat to put forth policies that would actually benefit me and mine, I would vote for them. I would. But we all know that they won't. My vote is up for grabs. I will go anywhere my interest goes. I vote my interest. I do not vote my party. And the
Yes,
fact,
that's all people.
not
Well, it
us,
should be all people.
not
It
black
should
people,
be. Huh?
not black people. You said
Yeah,
this yourself,
well, not the
92%.
92%. Not the 92%, but that should be vote your interest. Because I say this, and this is why I call them the 92%. You voted not at a 92% rate. If you vote that high, it means you get something from it, right? I don't care if I agree with it or not. What do you get from it?
A Megan Thee Stallion performance, Quavo wearing lace, Fat Joe performing
The performance that, I mean, she let's be clear. We know Megan Thee Stallion twerks, right?
Yes.
The twerk, she didn't even really twerk there because she couldn't really twerk there. So what were we getting?
Blue pantsuits?
We could have got that with Hillary. What were we getting? What were we getting? We got absolutely nothing. And that is my issue. When you vote a certain way, you get absolutely nothing. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Now, outside of the illegals, right?
Sure. Why not?
The Hispanic community definitely votes, which is the reason why a lot of them. So my dad's family is Cuban. Florida overwhelmingly, Cubans that live in Florida overwhelmingly vote Republican. Okay. Yes. And they get something for it. Those businesses, everything down there is Cuban. Okay. Right. It is what it is. However, if you go to other places like California, you see a lot of Mexican things. Like it is not just because the people there are overwhelmingly from Mexico or anything like that. Because in DC, it's overwhelmingly black.
Right.
Ain't nothing here black. Nothing except for Southeast, and that's turning.
Right.
So,
and who controls the majority of businesses in Southeast DC? If we're gonna have a conversation, let's have a conversation.
The Asians.
Thank you.
The Asians.
Right.
So I mean, you can't go 2 blocks. Well, you can't go 2 steps without a carry out here on this corner and a carry out here on this corner.
And in your entire life, you've never seen a Chinese food commercial.
I never seen it. I've never seen the Chinese food.
No. It ain't happening. And that's the thing. And that's what I talk about. And I said this. I don't know if you watched the show yesterday, but I said this. Every place I've ever lived, I've seen Chinatown, I've seen Koreatown, I've seen Little Italy, I've seen the 2 Jewish districts, which is the Delhi district and the Diamond district. I have yet to see Brothertown or Sisterville.
And in Miami, you have Little Haiti.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
okay. And you have Little Havana too.
And you have Galiocho. Even though all of Miami might as well be Cuba or La Havana.
Right, okay. But everything you said are derivatives. Everything you're talking about are derivatives, and that's no disrespect to the other people in diaspora, because Cuba has some of the most color-struck, nonsensical, cultural things going on in it.
Oh yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. They get treated, and when I say they, I mean the Cubans, the Haitians. For the most part, they get treated like immigrants, and so they fall under an immigrant type of situation. But foundational Black Americans, ever since they started to say, hey, unseasoned food with extra mayonnaise on it is good. If you just go to their lunch counters and get dogs sicked on you and hoses poured on you, you can go ahead and give up your autonomy. You can go ahead and give up your businesses. You can go ahead and give up your economic power base so that you can sit next to white people and get what they get while they cash in on you. Even King said,
I tell Van all the time, it's called the white man's ISIS coder.
All day, every day.
My mom is Polish and Native American. Okay. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen anything on the white side that wasn't on the Black and Cuban side. So I don't know where this mindset comes from with that you have to, we all here in America, right? All here in America, we all need to live together. But there's a particular thing that is pushed by the Democratic Party where they want everything to be inclusive. It's okay. It's okay to have this community here. It's okay to have this community here. Maybe you guys like anime. Maybe you guys like this and that. We all can coexist. But we all don't have to like the same things. That's what's supposed to be nice about America. We all don't have to have the same preferences, right? But we all have a set, one set belief.
Yes.
Right? That we're all Americans. We want this country to be better, and we all come together to figure out how that works. For some reason, the Democrats, unless you're marginalizing somebody, we don't get to talk about it.
No.
And if you are a proud American, you get seen as a racist, even if you're Black, even if you're Latino, even if you're Hispanic, even if you're not racist.
Right. But again, when you allow other people to make you answer to what they call you, that's on you. My whole thing is I love this country because it allows you to leave your mark. My issue with the Democrats specifically is if you really cared about Black people the way that you say that you do, then you have to explain why less than 1% of all SBA loans go to Black-owned businesses, while the majority of Black-owned businesses that are owned by Black women are gone within 18 months, and the majority of those businesses are single-member LLCs with absolutely no support, no infrastructure, and they cannot get access to capital in the same way the Chinese, the Cubans, the Haitians, the Puerto Ricans, everybody else
they're
does.
working alone. And I'll say this before we get into our next story. They're working alone. What's been taught to the Black community is either the man works alone or the woman works alone, preferably the woman, okay? Because how you get to a community is through the woman.
That part.
Okay, you take the man out and you go through the woman, right? And so the thing about it is when they're working by themselves, they think they're elevating themselves. If you elevate a community of people, you get places faster because you have more money. Okay, you get places faster because now it's a community effort. You could take this, move it here, move it here, move it here, move it here. When the Asians come over here, they already have Asians here. I don't have to go to the bank. I can give you money.
That's it. Economic power base, group economics.
Yes. It's called Dr. Claude Anderson.
Yes.
Talks about it all the time. Okay. But I tell people this all the time and they get mad at me. But here's the thing. Dr. Claude Anderson already said it. There's 20, 30 Black people are a permanent underclass. And they're going to be a permanent underclass because they haven't learned to practice group economics.
Right.
Not with others, not with themselves, right? Everything is on an individual basis. So when you don't practice the group economics, you don't get anything. And you get individually put on that board that you're seeing right now, 116,000 jobs lost, all Black women.
But you weren't about targeting DEI. I mean, at any point, you can make it make sense. And by the way, somebody was talking about, never once did I say anything about white privilege. I ain't talking about white privilege. I'm talking about a government conspiracy to make sure that a group is particularly marginalized based on finance and the fact that they make a lot of money by putting abortion clinics and horrible food and, lack of education and overworked teachers in there and robbing particular communities of resources. That's all I'm talking about. They ain't got nothing to do with white privilege.
Some people get confused with victimhood and actually saying what's happening, right?
Statistics.
Yeah. Like the thing, what happened is, yes, they put the drugs in the community. You don't have to sell the drugs, but they did put it there.
Sure.
Right? Two things could be true at the same time.
Correct.
You do not have to sell drugs. You do not have to be a part of whatever's going on. However, they do understand the poverty mindset that sits in both communities, Black and white, and even Hispanic. Okay. If you're poverty stricken, you're more than likely to do these things. And they know this. It's all, like I said, the Democrats understand the psychological. Correct. Republicans got to do a better job at it. I keep saying Republicans do not have good PR. They don't.
No.
They don't have good PR. They don't put forth a good talking point. They got good policies, but they're not good at getting in front of people and actually stating what those policies are going to do, which is the reason why they've never had the Black community. It's going to take them going to the bottom to really vote Republican.
That's it. And the other part of that is let's keep it a buck. The majority of the people who get platformed for Republicans, they're lame. They're corny. They're the people you would have beat up in the schoolyard and took their lunch money. Let's call it what it is. A lot of them don't got no bass in their voice. A lot of them don't have any type of energy. A lot of them don't know how to convey from a real place. I mean, you can go as far back as old boy who's now on MSNBC, bald-headed Black guy, used to be a head of RNC.
Oh, yeah. Michael Steele. He's part of
Michael Steele. He's corny as hell. He's corny as hell.
And
Bobby Dowd's got a little bit
yeah.
of swag, but come on, bro. They're not looking at him because he gets dragged for the same thing Kamala gets celebrated for, and we all know what that is.
Yes.
They don't have anybody who is dope to say, listen, this is what it is. And the ones who are, they ostracize them. Waka Flocka said, listen, I'm here for Trump. And it was like, oh no, cancel him. And nobody got behind him. And that's the thing. You need they need an Ice Cube. They need that type of energy.
But they didn't want him. They didn't want him. And that's because they're used to Ice Cube being on the other side. So that's why. But I think if you get someone that can speak to the situation that isn't coming from the other side, meaning like you're not a recovering liberal, like you've just been conservative, right? Like when I speak, I'm not speaking from I came from, being, a little liberal and now I'm concerned. No, I'm speaking from the fact of this is just me. It is what it is. And you can like it or not like it. And that's what the Republican Party lacks. They're going to get, Democrats that have come over, but go and actually get people who have actually been conservative.
Right.
And actually can speak to the culture. And I'm talking about American culture as well. Like all cultures, like go and get somebody that actually can do that. So I just think these things like what happened with Abby and what happened on the Hill are just Democrats grandstanding per usual. They're not going to do anything. But it
makes them look like they're doing something.
Correct. And that's the reason why I think, honestly and truly, as much as I want Sheldon Daniels to win, that's why I think he's not.
No.
Because the way the Democrat Party works right now and the way the 92% works, they rather see you acting like you're doing something versus actual policies. So that is that on that. So you guys, let us know what you think about that down in the comments. Let's get on to Elon and Trump. Okay. This is the bromance that is rocking the nation. The Democrats haven't really got in on it yet. I'm pretty sure today they're going to drag it. They're going to drag it all weekend. They're going to drag it to Monday because they probably wanted to get all their talking points together. But one of the things that Elon said when he did his whole little, dump on X was something about the Epstein files. Okay. Which was weird to me because the Epstein files has been available to everybody, including the Democrats. Okay. They could have released it a long time ago. Yes. I was still in school when they found the guy guilty or had him on trial, whatever. This is the 2000s. Okay. They've had a long time. So if they actually cared, they could have pulled it up. We know Elon was a Democrat. If he actually cared, he could have used the money to pull it up as well. We all know that these rich people know each other. There's no way that Donald Trump was involved. However, what Elon accused Donald Trump of, this is one of the videos that the liberal media has decided to pass around. I want you guys to check this out and then we'll come back and talk about it. Here we go.
Of a Mar-a-Lago party shows Trump giving Epstein his personal attention. The footage, shot in November of 1992, before Trump opened the resort as a club, shows the future president surrounded by cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, capturing Trump's fun-loving bachelor lifestyle for an appearance on Faith Daniels' NBC talk show.
We're going to get great ratings in your show.
Trump is surrounded by women as music blares in the background. After a while, Trump goes to greet 3 new guests, among them the financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Come on in. Go inside.
More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges. Later in the footage, Trump is seen talking to Epstein and another man as women are dancing in front of them. Trump alternates between dancing and pointing out women to Epstein and the other man and telling Epstein about the cameras. Though exactly what they say is difficult to understand as they discuss the women and their appearances. Trump gestures to one and appears to say to Epstein, "Look at her back there. She's hot." And then Trump says something else into Epstein's ear that makes him double over with laughter. But as the president said,
Oh, I'm trying to figure out why does that matter? This is bachelor men. Okay, they're talking about women, just like women talk about men. Why does it matter? Because they're trying to make something of nothing. But I want to get your thoughts really quick, and then we'll carry on. You're muted, I think.
Sorry, because I was over here cussing. First of all, I need you to understand that I don't rewrite history, I recite history. Donald Trump is the first rock star entrepreneur. Say whatever you want. You know, you could say it was Howard Hughes, but no, of the modern era, Donald Trump was the guy. Always been the guy. I don't want a wussified cornball as a leader. I want somebody who's a hot, red-blooded American male who, at the time when he was single, was looking at a bunch of baddies who happened to be wearing pom-poms and poodle skirts because they were Buffalo Bills cheerleaders. That's what he's supposed to do. The other part of that is, this is why this man invented the term fake news. It's all fake news. So what? And I don't know if you guys know this, because this is what Elon's really getting to. Everybody knows that Trump and his family was on Epstein's island before. And I can't wait for y'all to realize the Clintons were there too. That doesn't mean.
Well, here's the thing about it. Here's the thing about it. He wasn't on the island that everybody was talking about, because Epstein, okay, a lot of people don't go in. The Epstein has a couple of those things, okay? And there's one, I think it's called Lolita or something like that. Yeah, he named them, where the let's just call it the underage people would be, okay? And you can do all this crazy stuff. The Rothschilds has one of those islands too, but I digress from that.
And the Bilderbergers.
But yeah, so that's what they're talking about. And on top of that, a lot of these rich people, they loan out their jets, or they send jets for their friends, okay? When their friends want to use them, or when they just want to chauffeur their friends around. Donald Trump sent his jet to go get Nelson Mandela out of jail.
Nobody talks about that.
Okay. Yeah, well, they're not going to talk about that because, you know, the whole South Africa thing, they want to make him seem like a racist. It is what it is.
Right.
But this is what a lot of these rich people do. And the crazy part about it is, if we're going to be honest, then we might as well say that for what's happening right now, which is the whole P. Diddy thing, right? A lot of people, we know this, came in contact with P. Diddy, party with P. Diddy, all of these things. Are you going to say every last person was doing something nefarious with Diddy? No,
because I was at 4 Diddy parties. 4.
I've been to one.
I'm a little older. The truth of the matter is, and again, keep in mind, I was in radio, I was in media, I was on TV.
Yeah.
And guess what? I always left around midnight. I never saw none of the stuff they're talking about.
I leave before the devil comes.
But I'm not going to sit up here and act like I wasn't. And if somebody says they saw me doing something, run the tape. And that's the thing. We got to stop doing this thing where we're not paying attention to what's actually happening. And that's what no, I'm not trying to be funny, but that's what I talk about in the book. When it comes to this Diddy situation, we're talking so much about Diddy that we didn't pay attention to the fact that Abercrombie was doing real trafficking. And they went and they gave the Abercrombie guys who were doing real trafficking of real minors a $5 million bail. And that whole thing has been taken away. And if one more person asks me to do the Trump dance without a super chat, it's not going to happen. You can forget about it. Absolutely not happening. But this is what they do. They distract you with all this nonsense. They make it about Diddy and how Trump's a misogynist and this, that, and the third. While the real people, the real evil people who happen to have a donkey affiliation with themselves are running around here doing the real crime. And that to me is corny. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, you're cooking. Absolutely. So here's the thing. we're gonna go to, you know, the how they say get it from the horse's mouth. We're gonna go there. We're gonna go directly to Epstein's attorney. Okay. And this is what Epstein's attorney had to say about Donald Trump.
And this goes to the more salacious rumors, but I would like you to just, whatever you can say on it. Obviously, our current president has had relationships with Epstein in the past, and there are those Katie Johnson and maybe other victims who accuse Trump of being involved in things like this. In my experience, Trump supporters will not listen to anything along those lines. Obviously, we're not a court of law here right now, but are those claims of though that case was dropped, it was dropped before it went to court. In your opinion as a lawyer and your experience, is there anything you can say as to the validity of those claims, or whether or not there will be any more about that?
Nothing at all. The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that. I definitely heard that. I don't know that it was Trump himself as opposed to a manager there.
But it's Trump's club, so
yeah,
people credit him.
I've heard the rumor that Epstein was kicked out of there for allegedly trying to pick up somebody's daughter or something like that. But I think I did chase that down as far as I could, and never was able to confirm it. But I heard it.
I'm on the same boat with that.
And you got it from the horse's mouth. What's your thought?
Okay, Mika, let's call a spade, and I don't mean that racially. Let's talk about this for just a second. If there was an opportunity to pull this up, if there was any validity to this, Kamala Harris would have been like, I know Donald Trump's type. I know how to prosecute them. I prosecuted transnational, multinational organizations. They would have had Donald Trump in chains. They would have blurred out and redacted his body parts if there was any evidence that Donald Trump was actually doing anything of the pedo variety, or anything of an SA or trafficking variety before the election. There's nothing there, because keep in mind, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, all of them were controlled by the Democrats. All of them. Remember the 34 felonies that were misdemeanors and have never in the history of America ever been made felonies, to say that something was the tip of the iceberg beforehand? Remember all that? They would have ran with this because that's all they would have needed. They wouldn't have needed 34 felonies. They would have needed one. And they don't have it. So this is a nothing burger with cheese. And then on top of that, that means that if there's something legitimate to what Elon is saying about Trump, then the truth of the matter is, him knowing that and him acting as a government official and working under that and knowing that that was happening makes him at bare minimum an accessory after the fact. So you got to make it make sense for me mathematically and logically, because right now it doesn't, except for the fact that Elon is butthurt. He's upset, and Trump had to give him a reminder as to who's actually running the country. Now, if he had been working under the Biden administration, he'd have probably had a better shot. But the Donald ain't going to play second fiddle in his own house. He's not going to sit at his own dinner table and act like a waiter. Bottom line, point blank, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
You absolutely cook it. That's absolutely right. Yeah. Elon is used to getting his way. Okay. And what always amazed me was when the Democrats would say, oh, well, he's just wanting to give Elon, his best buddy, old pal, all of these, tax breaks. No. Joe Biden gave it to him. Kamala gave it to him. Yeah. Okay. Everybody else gave Elon these breaks. Trump is the only one talking about taking it away. And it's not like Trump didn't talk about it before. Okay, he talked about it on the campaign trail, and Elon agreed. He said, Elon, how these folks turns around. Elon, we're going to have to cut some of these, and Elon said, yeah, I know, jokingly sitting in the back. So there's absolutely no way that Elon didn't know that Donald Trump wanted to do these things. Okay. So I think, and this is just, my tinfoil hat. Okay. Cause I wear those sometimes. My tinfoil hat is tingling.
Uh-oh.
And I really do think the bromance continues. I do think that Donald Trump is trying to find a way to get his good buddy, old pal, bestie back in good standings with the libs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Because they are trying to just, pretty much crash anything anything Elon's attached to. What is the best way to get back in good graces with a liberal?
Well, you got to remember, Donald Trump is a WWE Hall of Famer, and this is what we call a double heel turn, right? So you've got the bad guy becoming the good guy, and the good guy becoming the bad guy again. And so that's exactly what this is. And this also stops the tree-hugging liberal shade tree house coons from burning and bombing and crashing these Teslas of innocent American citizens. Because let's face it, Donald Trump is a gas guzzling American. He didn't want to do this environmental electric car crap because we all know the majority of those generators are run on diesel fuel. But I digress. This is a work. That's what we call it in wrestling. This is a work because y'all don't realize that he has to make sure that Elon's stock goes back up and he doesn't get, the stink of Trump doing what he should do, which is the will of the American people on his business now that he's going back to private citizenry. That's my take, and I'm with you on that.
He
I ain't
already did what he needed him to do.
Chat in there.
Go ahead and trash me, throw everything out, because guess what? You could put up all these videos of me and Epstein. They don't have nothing.
Elon
don't have nothing. So
nothing
Elon, like out of nowhere, Elon, you know what Elon did? Elon went to his tech people over there at X and said, hey, pull up every tweet Donald Trump has. They said every tweet. And he put them all up. There's absolutely no way, just out of the blue, that Elon thinks Donald Trump is just this monster and yada, 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 yada. I mean, he just kept going. This smells like in reality TV, in black reality TV with the Real Housewives, they always say a scheme that Todd set up to come to us with the BS. Okay. And Todd is a producer on
I hate you so much right now.
Todd set up. All right. The reason why I say it's a scheme, because Donald Trump understands the public image.
Yes.
Elon doesn't understand that. Like he'll burn something down. Like he'll go full throttle. Donald Trump understands it. So go ahead, trash me, friend. Everybody else, because he said something particular in his little interview. He said, well, he hasn't said anything bad about me, but that'll probably be next. It's like, Yeah. And the next thing you know, he starts tweeting all this bad stuff about Donald Trump. Because at first it was just the bill. Then he started tweeting the stuff about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump was like, well, I prefer him to talk about me rather than the bill. So then he got off the bill and started talking about Donald Trump and Epstein. I said, have you ever seen Come to America?
Where's the soup?
Hilarious. Yeah. Like it makes sense now. And now if the stock dropped with Tesla, everybody can get in and buy because it's going back up.
It's going to the moon. It's going to the moon.
To me, that's where it is with me. And Donald Trump understand when I say he is the art of the deal, he is the art of the deal. He never outshines the master. Like he understands what's going on.
Oh, wait, Mika. Wait. Oh my God, there's a super chat. See, first of all, you people, you did it. You put in a super chat. I told you to do it. You did it. You followed instructions. We're going to make the Trump impress. It's beautiful. They're wonderful people. Mika, I love you. You're my favorite Cuban, African, American. I don't know exactly what you are, but you're something. And so because of that, I'm going to give you the dance. Going to do it. YMCA. Love it. Love all the people. Other people, they're wonderful people.
Oh my God, that was one of my favorite moments. Look at my African American.
Look at them right there. Aren't they wonderful? The African. You know what though? Donald Trump did something I've never seen. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, any of these people. Donald Trump said, and I could listen. Black people, African Americans, you built this country. You did. You didn't do it by yourself, but you did a hell of a job. You did it. You don't get enough credit for it. I absolutely love you. They won't tell you this. They won't tell you this. You built this country, and we appreciate you for it. And we're going to make sure you get the credit you deserve for it. That's the point.
And you know what? Donald Trump can give credit without pandering and without having you feel like a victim. Because yes, African Americans, FBA, Black people, whatever you want to call, they did help build this country.
I mean,
the natives helped build this country, the Irish, the Chinese, right? A lot of people did help build this country. Where it's gone now, as opposed to where it could have been, because everybody has put in sweat, blood, and tears into this country, whether forced, not forced, all of that, right? Everybody has contributed to this country, which is the reason why everybody should call themselves Americans. I've never, like, I am a descent of Cuban. I'm a descent of Polish. I'm a descent of Native. Okay, my grandmother's Native American, my mom's mom. However, I'm American. I'm descending from a lot of things.
Sure.
Okay, I'm like, I have 13% Africana. Okay, I'm descended from a lot of things.
Right.
However, I'm American, and I'm America first.
That's it.
And if a lot of people saw themselves that way instead of where you descend from, all right, because you don't live there, all right, your culture is here.
That part. And that's why.
Yeah. And so if you actually start to look at it that way, we all have the same worries. The best thing I tell people about being mixed races, I get to see both sides. When I tell you poverty in white America looks the same, white. Okay? My family's from Southern Virginia. They say white. From white America, okay, looks the same in Black America. You may be in trailer parks and you may be in a project, but it's the exact same thing. It's that they do the exact same playbook. They talk the exact same way. Okay, they're doing the exact same thing. And that's how Donald Trump won in the first place, because he didn't do anything different than the Democrats do.
Right. And that's
he just went to the group that's been forgotten.
That's it. And you know what? I'm not mad at that. My whole thing is, even with that and everything that you said, I'm with you on. What people don't seem to understand is you have a cultural frame of reference, right? You actually have at least two. A lot of times, everybody else in this country gets to celebrate their cultural frame of reference. The reason that foundational Black Americans like myself, you know, even our flag, you know how like Puerto Ricans have a flag, you know, foundational Americans have a flag. It's red, white, and blue. Because we're Americans. You can't, the reason that the racists get mad and the Democrats don't want us to do anything is because you can't deport us nowhere. That's the thing you can't do, because we are a product of mixing and genetic manipulation and all of these things. And our ability to thrive has been hindered primarily by Democrat policies over the last 60 years. Let's take slavery off the table for a minute. Over the last 60 years, there has been a runoff of what they've tried to do in order to make those distinctions happen. By that same token, we want to take care of our communities. We want to make sure that we build, but we have to make sure that we take care of ourselves. And the best way to do that is to get out of our way. And that's why I wrote the Real Black Agenda, exposing the myths and igniting the revolution. Because until the least of us are at a point where we have not a handout, not even a hand up, but equal playing time and the same opportunities that everybody else gets, we're always going to have a problem in America. And that's why you have these immigrants running over here, because they want to replace the foundational Black American vote, because we've gotten hit to the game. Some of us, not enough of us. And so they just want to go ahead and do end arounds.
Yeah, but you said one very important thing. I've never had a white family member say, unless they were actually from there, right? Well, I'm Polish American.
Yeah, they don't have to.
You hear me as I say, I'm a descent. I have descent. I'm a descendant, right? The problem is, I think, with Black people in America is that they've been here for generations and they still separate themselves with that hyphen, which means that you are not from here. when somebody from Africa comes here, they are African American because they're assimilating. You're already here. You have been here. That's the meaning of the term foundational. Okay.
Right. Absolutely.
If they thought about it that way, they would be more inclined to be economically entitled, just like white Americans, just like anybody else who's been here. You would think the same way. The reason why Black people are looking at white Americans and they're like, you're like, this is your America, because it is. It is. It is. They've been here. They've been here for how long now? You have been here the same way. If you start thinking about this being your country, just like if it was your house, you know, when you live in Section 8, the reason why you don't treat it good, because it's not yours. It's not yours.
Right.
So you don't care about it. You don't care what it does. You don't care about the HOA votes. You don't care about none of that. If you cared about this being your country as America, right? Whether wrong, right, or indifferent, if you actually cared about it, you would care about who runs it. You would care about the people that come in it. You would care about, because it would be your house.
Yeah, the thing of it is, when it's your house, you get to make certain decisions. And while the time is equal, the balance of power has not. Again, take slavery off the table. You got Jim Crow, you've got Reconstruction, you've got the Great Depression, you've got civil rights, you've got COINTELPRO. Those things are real. And the fact that we've just had quote unquote civil rights, and I hate that damn term. We've just had it, 10 years before I was born. So there's a lot of things that need to be taken care of. And somebody's saying, well, how much do I owe? I just got here. This ain't about, reparations for slavery. This is about making things happen, because if that's the barometer we're going by, how much did we owe Notre Dame? How much did we owe Afghanistan? How much did we owe these illegals who came over here, got New York apartments, got New York hotel rooms, got training, food stamps.
But see, the problem with I'll say this: the problem with that is, you have to have an economic agenda. Okay.
Correct.
Those people that came over,
it's right here.
Yeah, they knew what America was given, and they said, we're gonna go get it.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why Black people can't get anything is because, one, they're falling 92% behind a party that's not trying to give you anything. How many times they go to study whatever? It's always a study,
because it's always symbolism and representation.
The Republican Party has always given a solution. Everything that has been good that has come to Black people has come from the Republican Party, whether it was civil rights, getting rid of Jim Crow, all of that has come through the Republican Party, but it's been bastardized. Yeah, I was going to say the whole word, but I don't know YouTube's algorithm. It has been hijacked by the Democrats to be used as a victim tool, right?
Right.
When we talk about civil liberties, it wasn't for the LGBT. It wasn't for all these people. It was for Black people. And it was so you can have equal opportunity, not equal outcomes, because the equal outcome is what you make of it. And Black people were doing just fine when they got out of slavery. Okay, they made businesses, things like that. They had hotels and things like that. Now they were forced because of segregation, but it can be done. The economics can be done. So if you look at that and actually go ahead and say, okay, we can actually do this on a different scale now, because there's no barriers there. All you have to do is practice group economics. The group economics, you have to have that floor before you can go to a politician, because the Chinese, do you see Chinese politicians? No, they don't need it, because they have group economics, they have the money, they have this, that. They don't need the representation. Black people, they give them representation without the economics.
Right, but the thing that there's two things you're missing. The first thing is right after slavery, they created a bunch of laws, because the slave catchers then turned from slave catchers to police. That is correct. that is a
the
fact,
initial form,
right? Then they created all of these loitering laws after they gave reparations to the slave owners because they just got unjustly economically shattered because their slaves and their workforce was obliterated overnight. So there's this period before we get to the end of Reconstruction where we then were able to build. Right, so you're talking, and we could take Tulsa off the table. You got Eatonville, you got Wilmington, North Carolina, you got Wilmington, Delaware, you got Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I could do this all day. So there is a period before that that needs to be taken care of. That's point number one. Point number two, everyone else has the situation and actually had the knowledge and the power base that was legitimately and statistically kept from us, that does not get talked about, that is still while we're behind technologically. Listen, as a tech entrepreneur myself, I own a company called Zenith Media Labs. That company in and of itself is Black owned, Black operated. I have 300 employees. The truth of the matter is, when I go to Silicon Valley, I look like a raisin in buttermilk. There is a reason. It's not because we don't want to do group economics. It's because group economics is not forced on us. And everywhere you go, from the fact that they put these folks in churches, in these mega churches in our community, where they sit up there and send these politicians that tell us that they actually care about us, when they tell us that the best thing that we can do for ourselves is go get a college degree that's absolutely meaningless because they focus on us getting minimum wage and not maximum skills. All of those things are marketed directly and specifically towards Black people. So it's not the whole let's pick ourselves up by the bootstraps argument as much as it is they are profiting from a culture of ignorance that they control.
Correct.
You mentioned the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Annie Cohen runs that, but they put it on Tide. You talk about Love and Hip Hop, they put it on Mona Scott Young, but you don't know what Jim Ackerman looks like. If I pointed him out to you right now,
you're absolutely correct. And the crazy part about it is you would be able to all of this stuff is culture. All of this stuff is culture. Van is hilarious. All of this stuff is culture, right? All of this stuff is culture because Duck Dynasty is what?
It's absolutely white, but that's the exception, not the rule. And there's a balance.
They own their culture. So, so whether it's the bottom of your culture or the top of your culture, right? Because you had Duck Dynasty and all these other what was it, Honey Boo Boo, all this other stuff, right? All the way to the top, the very best, right?
But you have both. There's duality. We just get ratchet.
Right, but that's what happens when you own your culture. So I think it's a ownership issue, and through the ownership, you have the economics because everybody else owns all of the culture.
Correct, because they profit from our ignorance. They have always from the beginning.
So you got it. So that's the chain. That's the chain that's got to be broken because there's money in all of that. There's money in all that. Everybody sees it.
That's why I wrote the book.
All of that.
That's why I wrote the book. Because they don't want you to read this. They don't want you to understand that.
Yes. And once you get past that, that's where you will see the economic growth. Because I'm telling you right now, all that stuff makes money. That's why Andy Cohen doesn't do anything that does not make dollars and cents.
Correct.
His biggest franchise is the Black one.
Of course, and it always is. We're always the standard. That's why they got rid of
Zeus Network, and all of these other places. They just don't own it. And what you got and what they have to do, Black people have to practice that whole, and maybe they have to go back to being pushed together to do it. I don't know, but because they're not doing it on. Meaning, and when I say they, I'm saying it as what we're talking about.
Right.
You have to do it.
Right.
You have to go back and figure out how to practice the group economics.
But you can't practice the group economics when everybody's got their hand in the pot. You mentioned Zeus Network, and everybody talks about Leftward Plumber,
that's why I said
but they don't talk about Amanda Cerny. There is not anything you can point to, whether it is Jay-Z. I don't give a damn who it is. Every last person that has a Black company that is in the mainstream that you see also has a hidden white owner that you do not see, and that's by design. They profit off of keeping us dumb,
well,
and ignorant.
Not regular white. It's not that. Not that.
The
other side we can't talk about.
No, we can't talk about that.
But yeah, and they do it to all Americans, right? And so what I'm trying to get at is you got to find a way around it. And what I'm saying is, in America, culturally, whoever is at the bottom, okay, whether it was let's when you talk about people like in the gangs in New York, right? When the Irish were at the bottom and being forced to go to the wars and things like that, and being forced in those ghettos and things like that, right? You gotta find a way to still practice group economics. You gotta find a way to get from under that and I want people to know when he's talking about white, he's not talking about individual people.
No,
He's
I'm
talking about
a
a certain
system.
system. Yeah. But you got to find a way, because in that same system, and let's be clear, that same system will do it to their own people.
But not at the rate, because it's not as profitable doing it for their own people. Honey Boo Boo lasted 6 seasons. Duck Dynasty, one of the dudes just passed. Like, that stuff is exceptional to say, hey, we've got this. But by and large, the majority of the representation when it comes to Black Americans, and I've been a foundational Black American my whole life, it's trash, and we don't control it. And anytime we do, they will buy us out or force us to sell. Because again, when this Diddy stuff started happening, the first thing that went, boom, revolt. Next thing you know, boom, bad boy.
Well, that's why I brought up the whole economics thing.
Right.
Dr. Claude Anderson makes a very good argument about group economics and starting from there. And I think with any group, right? When you study history in any point, anytime, anywhere, not even just America, just anywhere on the globe, it's all it always what does my man say? It's the economy, stupid.
Always.
It's always economics. You gotta find a way to get that. And the first thing I'm going to say, it is the family.
Also, talk about it in the book.
Yep, you get that back. The values in America, and that's why I focus so much on America and its conservative values. Because whether it's Black, white, whatever, if you have actual family values, you actually can make better economic choices, better life choices, better health choices, like all the way around, create better wealth.
Absolutely. The last thing they want to see is married Black folks. They can't stand it, because that's the first thing somebody says if they don't know me. They're like, oh, you probably got a white wife. My wife's locks are longer than mine, and she's Black as I am. This is what y'all don't understand.
Why would that matter? That's crazy.
It only matters if you're a Black male with a white woman. It doesn't matter if you're a Black woman with a white male. Look at Kamala Harris. When nobody talking about
the 92% ain't gonna talk about that.
No, but again, I do agree it's an economic thing, but it is also the fact that we have to address all of those substantial issues, and that's what I do in the book. So you can't
America
say that
has
the event's there.
Dave, I agree. America has a lot of issues, right? And America has a not so great past, right?
Of course.
But I do believe that America is truly the best country. I'd rather have
that's not up for debate.
I'd rather have the best the issues that we have in America than have
anywhere else in the world.
Anywhere else in the world.
That's why we're called. Well, I mean, I am. You're mixed, but that's why we're called foundational Black Americans. This is our country, and we love it. We just want the country to live up to its promise: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I can't pursue happiness if you're trying to block my path.
And that's the thing I think the Republican Party has been the best at.
Period. Point blank. But they need better talking points, and they need to get the lanes.
I said they got bad PR.
They got horrible PR. Listen, but again,
I said they got bad PR. The Republican Party, though, I do think has been the best at trying to correct wrongs and trying to steer things to go. And they're focused solely on economics. We could argue about whether the big beautiful bill is good and this, but everything they always argue about is always economics. And I think if more African American, FBA, Black people, whatever you like to be called. I think if you jumped on, you don't have to be a registered Republican, but if you jumped on the more conservative policies and Republican policies, I think you would see more of a growth in economics than you would sitting with this Democratic Party. I don't understand why this party still has 92% of the vote.
Because well, number one, let me put it to you this way, lovingly and respectfully, you're culturally different. You're not subjected to what we're subjected to. The other part of that is we have things that are steeped in tradition. This is a country that was founded on separation from church and state. But do you remember, you're a little younger, but George W. Bush had this thing called faith-based initiatives. First letter is faith, second letter is base, last letter is initiative, FBI. When you start funneling government money into churches, then you can go into the church and do the dance. Remember, Joe Biden was falling asleep in the church. He wake up clapping like this. All of that makes people think that they care. All they got to do is act like they care. And that gaslighting, along with the tradition and the whole "we shall overcome," and the fact that LBJ said, "Yeah, I'm going to sign your N-word bill, but Martin Luther King, you have to hold me to it." And that's when MLK understood that the jig was up and the fix was in. So until we address that part and understand that those things are still why they're riding that way, until such time as we call out the fact that their websites are always full of a bunch of nonsensical gaslighting psychobabble, until the Republican Party and or the Democrats and or Elon's new Doge party that he's popping up tomorrow is
I saw that,
going to start making whiteboard explainer videos breaking down how government works a la Schoolhouse Rock style. We're going to continue to have a culture of ignorance until these boomers die off and Gen X grabs its nuts and starts saying, listen, if you ain't got nothing for me, I ain't got nothing for you. That's why you see so many black men like, I'm either sitting this out or I'm going to go vote for Trump because you have to give me something for my vote. I cussed out Amanda Seals and I'll do it again to any daggum tether who sits up there and tells me that this is the worst time in history. It was the worst time when Mitt Romney was running. It was the worst time when John McCain was running. It's always the worst time for black people. Black people have survived slavery. We have survived Jim Crow. We will be okay.
That's why I said they'll be fine. Yeah.
Trump ain't done nothing to me worse than what Joe Biden did with Bill Clinton in that damn 94 crime bill. But until you start showing up, cutting checks, and showing people economic prosperity, they're not going to fall in line. You got to come in and show up. The same way Dr. Fauci was walking through the hood giving people jabs is the same way these Republicans need to go to the hood and start showing, yo, this is what they're actually doing. The fact that the Democrats, for Americans, period, have not put forth any tax relief policy for the middle class since I was in diapers tells you absolutely everything you need to know about them. But nobody's having that conversation. They're not going to do that. Because we have realized that in spite of them, we're still going to make a way. And until somebody shows that this is nothing but Fiddler on the Roof and this is some traditional BS, we're going to continue to get what we get, which is a nothing burger with extra cheese. And that is the bottom line, period, the triple truth. And that's all there is to do with it.
I love it. I love it. And I just want to say this, you guys, when we have all of these discussions, because I always tell people the reason why I even call myself Pop Culture Mika is because everything is about popular culture. Everything connects. Everything comes back to the money. Everything is everything. So if you're looking at something that's happening in the culture, I'm sure you can find the policy on it. I'm sure you can find where the money's going, right? It's all connected. And so when we're talking about Americans, I understand that, race is a sensitive topic for a lot of people.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, when I tell you that if you talk about, and this is what my grandfather used to say, okay, if you talk about the hard stuff up front,
right,
you can get that out the way and then move on.
Sure.
Talk about the hard stuff because it makes you better. It makes you better as a team. Everybody in America is a team. Okay. Everybody in America is a team. And I always liken it to when we have Team USA, right? We got all these teams, you got all these basketball teams, but what do you do? You come together to be Team USA and go, kick ass everywhere else. So we just gotta learn to come together. That's my final thought and point.
Mhm.
And, you know, Elon and Trump, they'll come together. They'll come back. I think so. I'll let you have the last word.
I think my favorite book of Proverbs 4:7 says, "In all thy getting, get an understanding." What people don't understand is economics is extremely important, but economics without a plan is a recipe for disaster. It turns it turns a reservoir and a holding tank into a sieve. The reason that you see the majority of Powerball lottery winners go broke is because nobody gave them an economic plan. And when you do not have an economic plan and you just throw money at the problem, you're not addressing the culture of ignorance that has permeated through us for the past 70 years. And until such time as Democrats wake up and do something positive with that and stop saying, we're going to have a study, we're going to study the affected. How do you need to study the fact that there are abortion clinics in every hood, there are chicken spots in every hood, there are liquor stores in every hood, there are hash spots and weed dispensaries in every hood, but there's not any fertility clinics, there's not a lot of healthcare places, there's not any adoption alternatives, there's not any focus on physical fitness in schools, in neighborhoods. The playgrounds are literally run roughshod. All of those things need to be addressed along with the check. We also need the same plan that Dr. Claude Anderson laid out that was supposed to be given to us, that was given to the natives, that was given to the Japanese internment victims, that was given to absolutely everybody but us. No taxes, free education, putting things in place in order to level the playing field so that we can all start to build. Until we have that conversation and until somebody puts forth, oh wait, never mind, I put forth a real Black agenda. You can go ahead and get it right now from my website. You can click the link in my bio at The Business Bully. And until you're ready to have that conversation and start forcing these politicians to earn their multi-million-dollar kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies, food companies, and all types of corporate oligarchs, like Bernie Sanders likes to say, you are about as worthless as a warm bucket of hamster vomit. And your opinions, be they tethered, foundational, white, black, or green, amount to a hill of beans in the exact weight of my last bowel movement. And on that note, I hope you enjoy your weekend, LFR family. This has been phenomenal. We'll be back on Monday. And please go get the book, The Real Black Agenda, The Truth They Don't Want You to Read, Exposing the Myths and Igniting the Revolution. If you have a business, we have coaching packages along with it so that we can help you get an economic plan together. And you can go ahead and get that thing. And I absolutely love you guys, Mika. It's been a phenomenal conversation.
Yes,
and
I love it. I love it. You guys, thank you so much for spending the hour and a half with us. Hopefully, we've made you happy, sad, mad, and brought it back again. Yes. All right. Because without all of those emotions, you never get anywhere. You never have a conversation. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Van, I hope we did you some justice. Yes. I hope everybody had a good time. And guess what? It's the weekend. You know, go live life.
That's right. Keep them super chats and cash apps coming.
Indeed. Have a good day.
Y'all take care now.
We have been helping people grow online. It has been absolutely amazing. We have helped many content creators get from zero to monetization in under 30 days. We even have a couple of these superstars who did it in 1 or 2 weeks. If you want to learn how to do YouTube, I don't care your age, I don't care what skills or talents you have. Trust me, I can help you do it effortlessly. Just reach out to me with the word coach and we can get it done. One more thing. We have a YouTube course that I just now created. I'm extremely proud of, and a lot of people are getting so much from. Purchase that course and work with us. You can join our private Facebook group and our daily group calls, which is 3 to 5 days per week, and you can learn so much more than you've ever learned before. I can't wait to hear from you. Love you. Peace.